Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Lovely speech. Real specific question, however, right now we're engaged in an activity in Ukraine where a totalitarian government is attempting to overtake a country that it invaded. And right now we do not have the support of the largest democracy in the world, which is India. Do you have a suggestion or a recipe for how to bring Narendra Modi on board?
So first, let's acknowledge the war in Ukraine, then let's go to India. First of all, the war in Ukraine, it's more than just about Ukraine. This is a war about freedom, and it's a war we have to win. Because what we saw with Obama, he let Russia go right into Crimea and basically told Putin we're not going to do anything. When Putin saw Biden fall with Afghanistan, he knew this was his time to go again and try and take more. The reason this matters, if you notice when the conflict first happened, everybody said 5 days they'd be gone. But look at what the Ukrainians did. The idea that the men went and left their wives and their children, and they went and fought for their freedom. The idea that the women said, I'm not sitting still, and they started making Molotov cocktails to help their husbands. The spirit that they have had trying to save their country. We used to have that. That used to be us. And they've made inroads. And so now you look, over 200,000 Russians have died. They basically have raised the draft age in Russia to 65. Think about that. You know they've hit rock bottom when they're getting drones from Iran and missiles from North Korea. All of this would have been further along if Biden would have reacted hard and fast in the very beginning. If we win this fight for freedom, it will send a signal to every enemy we have. If we lose this fight for freedom, Russia has said Poland and the Baltics are next, and then we've got a world war. A strong military doesn't start wars. A strong military prevents wars. Our goal has to be strong enough that we prevent the next war. So I am just as disappointed that India has not been there, but I get it. Do you know why? India has always had a military relationship with Russia. But the reason India isn't with us, they don't trust that we'll win. They don't trust that we have the spirit to finish this. They don't know that we're not going to cut and run and leave Ukraine. That's the problem. India has to know that we're going to be there. And that's why we have to finish this. This doesn't mean we ever should put troops on the ground, and it doesn't mean we should ever write blank checks. I am never forgiving money. I'm forgiving military equipment, ammunition, so that they can do the job themselves. But we have to prove to India we're not going anywhere. And we need to get all those other NATO countries and say, what are you giving? What are you giving? Because this is not just us. They have more at stake than we do, and they need to pony up, and we need to make sure that they do that. We'll get India. We just have to stick to our guns and make sure that we're tough about it.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm up here from Kansas City, so
welcome
you to Missouri.
Welcome to Iowa.
We all know that our southern border situation is a mess, and you alluded to the numbers before. And I've heard and read a few of your ideas about how to fix the immigration, but can you elaborate on what your ideas are for getting us past this stalemate and getting an effective immigration law in this country?
You know, this is really where we have to go in. I've never held an office in Washington, D.C. And so I'm very impatient with what's happening right now. We have to light a fire under them. They love to go on TV and talk about it. But when I had problems in South Carolina, I would go put them in a room and say, you're not leaving until we figure this out. For the good of our country, we have to sort through this immigration system. I don't think we give anyone a pass. I think we use the E-Verify system, but I think we look and say, what does our country need? Because I know of manufacturers in South Carolina, and they need plant managers, and they can't get them because they need certain ones. We go and have all of these students come from overseas, and we educate them in our schools, and what do? We turn around and send them right back right after we train them. That makes no sense. We need to do this based on merit. We need to do it on who do we need in this country that will make us better. That's what it comes down to. And so for me, that's where it is. They're all going to want to talk about DACA, right? They're all going to want to work on. The difference is, no, we don't talk about DACA until you pass immigration reform. Then we'll talk about DACA and we'll do it. It doesn't come before, it comes after. Any questions back here? Yes, sir. Mr. America, right here.
Well, I got a question. Probably a lot of the people we may, perhaps Iowa carried for Trump. And so why should we vote for you in the caucus instead of perhaps someone like Trump?
Because I don't think you have to be 80 years old to be in D.C. I really don't. Look, President Trump is my friend. I think he was the right president at the right time. He came in, he broke the things that needed to be broken, and he fixed them, and I was proud to serve in his cabinet. But we, as dire of a situation as this is, as much as all the media and everybody wants to talk about the past, we need to leave the status quo in the past. We've got work to do. We've got to look forward. We've got to figure out what we're going to do for America. This is bigger than a person. This is bigger than a person. And we need to fight for that. And so what I'm telling you is we need to make sure that we've got the energy, the power, and the ability to bring more people in that will see that our solutions are the right ones, because we believe in lifting up everybody, not a select few. Yes, sir.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet with you. I'm an American veteran. I served over in Afghanistan, and Thank you. Also a small business, service disabled veteran-owned business, and the retail sales. And they have the programs was set aside for veteran-owned businesses, as far as government contracts and so forth. It's a system called AC Nelson Data System that's keeping veteran-owned business from entering to government contracts. What is it that you would do to turn that around, to give us that opportunity for the big corporations to allow small business to get in?
So I'll tell you what we did in South Carolina. In South Carolina, I set up an entire veteran small business system. But it went two ways. One, it was a way to market all of our veteran small businesses to the industry that we had brought to South Carolina. The other was it created a pipeline of all the veterans that needed jobs. And we started connecting businesses with veterans and really making that network happen. And so South Carolina was named one of the most patriotic states in the country because of everything we did for veterans. We owe you a debt of gratitude. We owe your family a debt of gratitude. You shouldn't have to look to find anything. We should be finding you. That's what hasn't happened. So we have to find the veterans and say, come with us. These companies need help. This is what we do. Oh, Young G's barbecue sauce. So I want to just give you a little jump start to what a presidency is going to look like. I want everybody to go out and buy some Young G's barbecue sauce today. Give that man a thank you and buy a case of this stuff. God bless you. Thank you very much. All right, Andrew, where are you? Oh.
I have a question. Here.
Okay.
We'll do one more over here and then come to you, sir.
And then I pointed to her, so we have to do her too.
Okay.
I'll hang on. So I'm Nathaniel Gavronosti, for people who don't know me, and I work with people with disabilities. So people like Congresswoman Miller Meeks and Carol with Grassie's office, they know me quite well. And any legislators here in the state of Iowa know me very well on disability issues. People who live on disability through SSI, SSDI, who were not able to work enough to have retirement savings, it's the highest part of our society that commits suicide because they do not have enough money to live on. I know a few people who are living in an abandoned trailer off I-35 because they have a wheelchair and they can't get housing, and they have their wheelchair because Medicaid and Medicare won't approve a wheelchair if you don't have an approved housing situation. The increased COLA that happened last year was only like 9%. However, most of the people who live are in this room that are on Social Security know if it was only that they lived off of, they couldn't survive. What are you going to do in whatever regards that you are in the next administration due to improve people who have nothing else to live off of? Thank you.
Well, I'll give you, I keep going back to my time as governor because it's the only way I can prove to you results of what I've done. What we did in South Carolina is we took everybody, we had thousands of people on welfare, on assistance, all of those. And what we did was, I said, how can we go and lift them up? How do we go and give them a better life? How do we make them more productive than what they are right now? So I got with my businesses and I partnered with them. So instead of giving them a check, I went and said to the business, I will go and pay for this person to work for you. All I'm asking is for you to train them. So for X number of weeks, if you will train them, at the end of it, you decide if you want to hire them. We moved thousands of people from welfare to work. Do you know why that happened? Is because one, that person wanted to be productive. They wanted a job. They wanted someone, and they wanted dignity. And the business desperately needed workers. And by the time they had invested all that time into training, neither one of them wanted to let go. That's what you do. You look for those that need help and you match them with people that can give the help. But you do it in a way that's productive, that people aren't sitting there feeling down on themselves. You do it in a way where they feel loved and they feel like they're getting better and they're improving as a person. That's what we have to do in America. It can be done. It takes work. We will find a service for you to do. Everybody should feel worth. Everybody should feel worth. And there is always something we can do to help you. Oh, I think we had the veteran. Yes, we had our veteran, and then we
We'll
had.
do one more question here and then one over there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I happen to have been in Vietnam when we got kicked out, and I watched it fall less than 2 years later. So I know what people like your husband must feel after what we did in Afghanistan. And I'm proud to know that Zach Nunn was one of my friends who organized getting people out of there on his own.
He's a good one. He's a good one.
We have the greatest contingency of legislators in any state. They all work with us very hard. Miller Meeks, I've got some paperwork that I'll be bringing you in about 2 weeks. Because we go out there twice a year. But one of the issues we've got right now that's a big one, we just got the PACT Act passed, which is toxic issues for veterans to get them help. Our biggest push is going to be the Major Richard Starr Act. Major Richard Starr was kicked out of the military because he had been wounded. He was close to being able to retire. Because this happened, he was given a choice. Either you take your disability or you take your retirement. That is wrong. You wouldn't do it to any business in this. So my question is, we want this to pass. And listening to you earlier, when you said about all the money we're wasting, the biggest issue that we get said, it's hard to get this kind of bill passed because of what it costs. Well, it cost this man his life. He was buried in September while we were out there. So what is the price? But we're giving money to build a golf course in New York, and we're
Colorado, $6.5 million.
and we're telling
Yes.
veterans there's not enough money to get them the care. So my question for you, and by the way, this lady here is a Iraqi combat veteran.
God bless you. Thank you.
So my question for you is, I've got some papers I'd like you to have on the VFW's issues. My question for you is, would you support the Richard Starr Act if it came across your desk?
I am the wife of a combat veteran. I am a military wife. I know the sacrifices that all of our military go through. I know the sacrifices our families go to. There is nothing I won't do to make sure we thank our veterans and never let them feel an ounce of pain, because they fought for us. We have to always fight for you. Yes, yes, yes.
Which could be the next, he's training the Polish Army on how to do, he's a net, on how to do his job. And so he could very easily become the next eligible for veteran reform.
I can get Cheney to get the information from you, and we can get you that information. Okay, last question. Make it a great one.
Last question, ma'am. Here we go.
Oh, no pressure there whatsoever. Okay, so mine is going to go a little bit more in that healthcare pharma world, okay? Because we all know pharma is a hot mess. And I would say that with a lot of the reliance of the import of a lot of our drugs and stuff like that, rather than manufacturing at home, is a big issue, especially for a lot of our seniors, different things like that. But then necessarily bringing it in-house, I think the trust of the pharma industry is at an all-time low, and reliance of like high price cost and all that other stuff. What's your plan on bringing really good control, not only in that healthcare sector, but really specifically for that pharma, and making sure people get the meds that they need when they need it?
So that's a great question. You know, I have my parents, they live with us. We take care of them. They are 86 and 89. And I know. And they just celebrated their 62nd wedding anniversary last night, so we were really proud of them. So I see what they go through. I see the paperwork. I see how expensive those drugs are, and I see the number of seniors who are having to decide between eating and taking their medicine. We have a whole healthcare issue that has to be dealt with. And the one thing that cures that healthcare issue is transparency. We have to open them up. Why can't they tell us what things cost? When you go get your car and you get the oil changed, they don't change it without telling you what the estimate is. And then you give them the okay and they do it. Why is it when you go in a hospital, if you don't want the Tylenol, you pay for it anyway? Why is it that insurance companies negotiate your costs and you have nothing to do with it? Why is it? Because they don't want you to see all the hidden costs. We have to go and make sure we open up a lot of sectors. We need to see transparency with the pharmaceutical industry. We need to see transparency with the hospitals. We need to see transparency with the doctor's offices, and we need tort reform, because they don't give you those 10 tests because they want to. They do it for the 90% chance they'll get sued if they don't give you those tests. So when you go and you open up that entire system and say, we're not picking on one industry, we're not just going to do the pharmaceutical, we're going to do everybody. Everybody should have to show us why they charge us what they charge us. And if they say, oh, but we have to pay for those that don't pay, then show us. Because right now, when you can go and have a deal in a back room about Jane Doe who's sitting in a hospital room, something's wrong with that. We'll open it up and we'll make sure that we call everybody out. Transparency fixes a lot of things, and I've always been a transparency girl. So thank you very much. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come out. I want you to know that, first of all, if you are willing to join our movement, I don't need to tell you how important Iowa is. You know it, or all these cameras wouldn't be sitting back here. What I'm going to ask you is, if you like what I had to say, go tell 10 people to go to NikkiHaley.com. If you want to be part of our movement, and you want to see what it's like to feel good about your country again, go to NikkiHaley.com. If you want to know what it's like to have your kids proud and you want to stand for America, go to NikkiHaley.com. But first, help me thank the best governor in the entire country, Kim Reynolds. More than that, we should all be honored, because her husband, Kevin, came with her, the first gentleman. You grow them really strong around here, but one of them you grow strong is Marionette Miller Meeks, and she's fantastic. We're super proud of her. And Kelly, thank you for your help. We appreciate everything. Thank you to Royal Flooring. Thank Thank you, Iowa. God bless you. See you next time.